when people ask me questions about the mobile home park business and what I like about it.
Within the family, it's a home that you're after. It's not a house of any particular kind.
Typically, the city officials in the city are excited that they have a person like you or like us to come in there and breathe some life back in there.
And we're back on the MHP Exchange podcast. I'm your host, Frank Rizzo. Joining me is my partner, Eric Busatel. Eric, how are you today?
I'm doing good, Frank. How you feeling today?
I feel pretty good.
A little chippy today?
I'm a little chippy. Eric has a lot of extra energy because apparently he started drinking kombucha. I've never seen him do it before. 10 years with this guy. First time I saw him do this, and now he's telling me he's done it all the time. So I'm a little surprised at that. But I want to welcome everybody back to the MHP Exchange podcast, where we really built this podcast and really the website for community owners, by community owners, as an exchange of information, things that's happening inside the industry, industry news, things that could impact your operations, and more importantly, giving you some insight in what makes a community work really well. And, on the program, we like to bring in some guests that could add some value to the people who are listening and hear from people, down on the field, like working properties, working communities, and really making a difference. And we're super pleased today to have a community owner, a gentleman by the name of Justin West, who's joining us. Somebody that we know for a while, and he purchased his first community about a year ago, and he's got a really interesting story, a really interesting redevelopment project that he's been part of, and to share a little bit about his high points, maybe some of his low points, and how he's kind of gone through that process and how that might be able to help you out there listening, in with your project or something that you're looking at. So I'm really super excited to have Justin with us. Justin, are you there?
I am here, Frank and Eric. It's really an honor to talk to you guys. And I have to say, whether it's on the phone or in person, it's always a real pleasure. So I appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you being down.
Appreciate you, Justin. Justin, why don't you start off by, just telling our audience a little bit about yourself and your background and, how you ended up here with this purchase and, how's it going?
All right, I'll sure do it. So I was born and raised in South Georgia, went to school in Central Florida and studied business, studied some marketing, kind of figured out that in the process, it wasn't anything that I really loved. I think probably just because it was also theoretical, that the entrepreneurship thing was something that interested me, but especially because my family growing up had a small business that my dad ran. And so eventually I came back from school, went to graduate school, came back from school and ended up through a series of events with my family business. And so that was a wholesale distribution business, and it went really well. I really enjoyed it. I went back to school for some international relations type stuff, international politics type stuff. And, I really just want, in whatever I do, I want my life to have purpose. Part of who I am is a much longer story than I'll say here, but whenever I was in college, I started using all types of drugs, part of the whole partying scene to me. And I became a heroin addict. I was IV using all sorts of drugs constantly and basically just became a junkie while I was at college. And in the process of getting out of that, getting free from that, which seemed at the time impossible to, I think, everybody, it was either death or prison for me. That's what my future looked like. I cried out to God and I said, if you'll save me from this, I'll do whatever you want. And he did it. That's been a decade and a half ago. And, I think that having a higher purpose for the life that I have left is a huge deal. So whether it was that family business that I ran and now I've got somebody else running, or this whole mobile home park business, I want to be able to have an impact on people's lives that is bigger than just the financial part. And that's one of the things that I've come to realize about mobile home park ownership and management through watching my dad in the process of that park, which we can talk about a little later if you like. But you really are close to people, sometimes whether you want to be or not. And so you are able to have an impact on them. And having a positive one is really the goal for me, no matter what it is. So excited to talk about, what I've been through so far and what I expect to see in the future.
So, Justin, that is a amazing story. And I'm sure it's a deeper story than that, but that was
powerful,
very powerful. And, you allowed us to really get to know you in a quick, and some quick comments. And you really hit it on the head. And, when people ask me questions about the mobile home park business and what I like about it, there's a lot of things I like about it, but one of the main things that is very fulfilling to us is exactly what you said. We're able to, not only, have a business to support our families, but we're also, allowing others, to have a good place to live. And I'm not fully understanding of what your model is. And, we'd like you to elaborate on that a little bit, but, ours is leading people towards home ownership. And that's, it's very satisfying doing that, especially when you have, individuals that have been renting for their whole lives. So, that was, you really hit it on the head with that one for me.
And it was, full disclosure. We know Justin a while now. We've gone back and we've worked with him and his father as well. So knowing that story, not knowing that Justin was going to mention that even today, but in terms of even leading that and using that, that life experience to moving into the mobile home park space, what was it about it that drew you in specifically to say, all right, now I'm ready to take the plunge and I want to own it, be a community owner? What was it that all of a sudden said, because I know your family has been in the space before but you got involved kind of after they exited. So what was it that kind of led you into stepping in now?
Well, I have to say right from the start, when I look at a mobile home park, or if I'm looking at buying a mobile home to move to a park or whatever it is, whenever I see that, I see something that's familiar to me because growing up for the first third of my life, I was in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, single wide mobile home with 2 brothers and a mom and dad. So there's something about it that's I can look at people that are looking at a mobile home or living in a mobile home, and I can understand where they are. There's part of the American dream, or really the dream of anybody that wants to have a comfortable place in the world, is that you've got a home, you've got your own home, and what it looks like from the outside to somebody who might live in a 3,500, 4,500 square foot stick-built or brick home. That's beside the point, because within the family, it's a home that you're after. It's not a house of any particular kind. It's just a place of your own that is safe and comfortable. And so we definitely, like for myself, the home ownership route, getting people in the process of being able to purchase their own mobile home rather than rent, is the way to go. The only reason I know that is because I've had people around that I've watched, and at the top of the list, that Frank and Eric, that's you guys. And I listen to probably 1,000 hours of podcasts just like this. That's probably a bit of a stretch. It may be more like 200, but there's a lot of hours of podcasts. And the theme was pretty consistent amongst people that have been successful in this business like you guys. So there's a moral basis for the reasoning of choosing this type of business, how you operate it, home ownership, people taking responsibility, that is fantastic. And then on top of that, you can't make a business decision that's going to ruin your business. It's a really good financial decision to make as well over the long term. And I only know that because in the short term, it may look better to rent, but in the long term, it's better to sell because of the fact that I've seen guys like you and listened to guys like you. And so I did get into it after my family exited it because I watched how great it was for my family, for my dad, as a business. And then I realized how much value was in it that my dad, because he just kind of fell into the business by happenstance. He didn't know. And so I thought, I'd like to do something like what he did, except I'm going to do it differently in the ways that I've learned lessons from that situation and from him. And so if he was successful and made, plenty of mistakes or could have done things differently, then, as a person who recognizes that I will make a lot of mistakes, but I would like to be able to improve on other people's mistakes, it could be fantastic. So I appreciate the fact that you guys have a podcast, that you're sharing the information, you're not hoarding the wisdom to yourselves. And I really hope that people listening are able to appreciate what that's worth too, because my natural instinct is to say, I've figured it out and I'm not going to tell a soul, because I'm going to be the one who benefits from this thing. And you guys are doing the opposite of that, which is just really a testament to your character. And so I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for that. I think we looked at it, when you can share information. And one of the things about this space, quite frankly, is if you're able to share information with each other, you kind of rise, a rising tide raises all boats. And, your father's also a testament to that, because even after, and we found this in this space, which is so unique, right? So even after we purchased the property from Justin's father, and that's how we met, with Justin. And your father stayed involved with us afterwards, that if we had a question, we could call him. If we needed information, he would be there. If we needed assistance with something, he knew, because he had been in that community for so long, and he knew people inside that city. He would help open doors for us to make it easier for us to operate. He didn't just say, "Hey, I'm out. Good luck, guys. I'll talk to you later." He maintained that relationship with us to this day.
100%, Frank. In this space, we've met some great people. A lot different than in a lot of businesses, where if you buy a business for somebody, they're gone after a while. Justin's dad has actually become a very good friend of ours, and I mean, he taught us some stuff, that we definitely wouldn't have learned on our own, or
it would have took us years.
And one thing I think, one reason, I mean, obviously, we love Justin's dad, but I feel like, individuals who own these communities, they end up with an emotional attachment to it, right? And there's a sense of pride, even in sending the community out to someone else when it's then their time to exit. And we find that regularly across, several of our properties, where we've bought a community and the prior owner, has had it for so many years and it's done well. And it did really well before we took it over.
Sure.
From him. But we took it to, just a little bit further. And he was super excited to see that happen for us and help us get it there.
Correct.
And you don't really see that at all. I've been involved in, a handful of different business ventures over the course of time, and I've never entered or been in a business like that.
Correct. Where there's almost, and it's bringing back that pride of ownership, and kind of where Justin was talking about having the residents own their homes, because now it becomes part of their community, or his experience of growing up in a mobile home, where you have that sense of not just this is a home, but this being their, his community that he's living in. Justin, how do you get that message, or did you have to create that culture inside the community you just acquired?
Yeah, I'd say that just like what a lot of people have done that have been successful is they're coming into a park where there's a previous owner, an owner operator that's really, they've done their best. They poured their heart and soul into it, and they've gotten tired of trying to continue to push in the direction that they have a vision for, and somebody else can come along and say, look, I want to be able to, have an opportunity created for this owner where they're able to get out of it, hand it over to somebody that they feel like is going to continue their vision with a new zeal and maybe some tools that they didn't recognize that they might be able to have in their toolbox. and also, be able to do that comfortably where they feel like they're getting paid for all of the work in the years that they've had invested. So within the particular park that I bought, which is a 56 lot park in a relatively small town, it's sort of a bedroom community for places that are 20 and 30 minutes away. It was already fairly quiet. Not a lot of things that I would want to change about the culture within the park, but it was sort of a, let's build. It's going to have to be built almost from the ground up. There were at the time 13 units in it out of the 56, and so really creating the culture of the park going forward is something I'm able to do in the process of screening tenants. And getting them to recognize and understand what types of rules or what kind of community culture that will be expected, and I can have that right up front in the contract. And so the people that have lived there in this place, it's a very country setting. It's within city limits, but on the edge of town. Their biggest fear was that a bunch of people were going to be moving in that didn't fit into the quiet family community type of atmosphere that existed at the time that I bought it. So, the most work I've had to do is convince the people that live there that it's going to be just as good and better going forward. And like you guys, I've had a lot of help and maintain contact with the previous owner. They've helped me to understand who is in the park, and what type of people they are, what I can expect from them. And again, they've been sort of a liaison between those people that live there. So the people that live there may not want to tell me, hey, this is what we're afraid of, but they'll tell the previous owner, and that person will tell me. So I think that because of the fact that I chose to get a place that needed so much improvement in terms of number of homes on the property, I think that's allowed me to be able to direct where the culture and the community atmosphere goes a whole lot easier than it may be if you end up with a park like when my dad bought the park that he had. It was that's a whole podcast in itself. There was everything from prostitution to drug dealing there, and it even kicked off his ownership. The reason that he was able to buy it in the first place was the seller contacted him and said, we want to sell it, because that day in the front page of the paper there was a person that was deceased, their body was left at the park. So seeing him go through that process, I can see that there's a lot of places where you potentially could have to really push to shift culture that exists. And so I was excited to know that coming into this one, I'm not going to have to call the police and usually beat them to the scene of some crime, where I'm going to be able to then use that to evict somebody that should have been gone a long time ago. So
knowing Justin, though, it would be better for that resident for the police to show up first.
they should get there first. I'll tell you, I want nothing more than the good of any person, for sure. But whenever there are people that are making life hard on everybody else around them, sometimes the best thing is for them to just be moved along. And so yeah.
Justin, so you grew up. Dad had a community, great community, really did well with it. I'm sure you followed him a long way, in watching what he did there, and I'm sure you learned from that. And now, you have this community. Sounds like you're on your way, and you kind of, found the right recipe, so to speak, to keep it going in the manner that the existing tenant base is there already. Where do you go from here? I mean, are you interested in growing your portfolio, or are you kind of just focusing on this one? What exactly do you have in mind right now? Or if something pops up, are you looking at stuff? Tell us about where you plan on going from here.
Yeah, I think that I do have a long-term goal that is loftier probably than just this one park. I've set a number it's not necessarily anything that's concrete, but it's just something to aim at of 300 lots, and that's based on the financial aspects of what that would look like in a lot rent only 300 lot scenario, and manageability for myself without having to build out a large team. And I know that it's a great idea to be able to do that, but just because of my family situation, where I am on the map, and just other goals that I have and other things that I have on my plate in life, beyond 300 and the management of a team is not something that I find personally desirable. So the country setting of this park, sort of the style of large lots and the sense when you pull in that you're pulling into a neighborhood, that's the type of park that I am interested in the future. Large properties, large lots, and obviously the bigger the number of lots in one particular location, the better, just from a management perspective. But focusing on what I have now, because this is a massive learning process, with all of the studying of mobile home parks that I've done, listening to podcasts like this especially, and then reading what's available in places like your guys' site, it's the kind of thing where I've already taken 1,000 steps that led me to a new learning experience every time. Whether it's the acquisition of homes to put on lots, the renovation of homes after they've landed on those lots, or even though it's something I've had experience with in the past, dealing with cities, counties, municipalities, where you end up with an unforeseen sort of roadblock that comes up. And I've had that situation arise here. And the idea of expanding right now into other parks, unless just some unbelievable deal came along, I think that it would probably just demand too much of me. So, in this particular place, just the idea of expansion versus improvement became an issue. Just that wording in the city code where I am, those two definitions fall into different categories in the city code, requiring vastly different amounts of capital investment. And so there was some people on this particular city council, and anybody listening, this is going to be something that you should always seek to find out and avoid problems with in the future, but sometimes you just can't. City, county governments, municipalities they're in place for a reason, and there's also a lot of personalities on there that may have an inclination to oppose you in whatever project you have. So that was one of those situations where I couldn't have seen it coming. I attempted to avoid that type of an issue before making the purchase of the park, and then it became something that I had to really work hard to overcome. They wanted to say I was expanding, and the definition of what I was doing was improving. So
I know the backstory of this, and I want to ask you some questions on it because I think it's really, really important. You left a lot to unravel there, but one thing I just want to go back to, because you've mentioned this twice, that you were in a smaller country setting, and we had a previous episode where we were talking about the benefits of a smaller market to a bigger market. Now, you're in a smaller market by choice, right? And before, and even in speaking with your father beforehand, right? And your father is super knowledgeable in the space. One of the things that the concern was like, are you going to be able to pull people into your smaller market into the outskirts? Because you're surrounded by bigger markets, right? You're kind of center point between, and you in the last 12 months have tripled, right? Your occupancy there in 12 months in a smaller market, right? So how were you able to do that? Because I think that's a key point, because I talk to people all the time, and I want to be they want to be in a bigger market. They want they feel it's easier for them to pull, but you're proof in 12 months, you've tripled occupancy in a smaller market. How did you do that? Like, what was your way in to increase occupancy that way?
Well, going into it, I thought it's probably a dead town. And if you look on like Realtor.com or Zillow, it would appear that way. There's just nothing there. But that was part of the clue in that I had about the potential market that would exist if homes were available. The only thing that you could buy in this particular town was a $300,000 plus home, and there are no places to rent, nothing available. There's some income-based government housing, but it's substandard and 40 to 50 years old. I thought there's probably people in there, second and third generations that are living in the same place that are looking for something else because of the job market in the surrounding areas and the low crime rate in this town. I thought, and like you said, it was against my dad's advice about whether it would be a success or not. And he is a super smart and a wise guy. And maybe I'll find out in 10 years that he was right. But so far, it's looking like it was a good choice. It's the fact that nothing else is available. And when I went to city government officials, for example, to start dealing with the issue that came up, I had people that worked in the city saying, my son is looking for a place to live. I have a family member that as soon as you have something ready, can you let me know? And I started hearing that over and over. I thought Facebook Marketplace and that type of advertising or marketing was going to be the ticket for getting it filled up. But so far, I can't finish a house on a lot renovation without it being spoken for.
Wow.
Without anything but word of mouth. And there are towns within a half an hour that are situated sort of similarly to this town, but this town is different. And the only reason that I know it is because I know people that live there, talk to them ahead of time, and what they told me was there's nothing available. There's nothing here. There's nowhere to go. So, it's not that I have like a great recipe for any small town. It's just that the recipe existed there. The only thing I had to add was really good, clean places. When you walk in, it's like walking into a new apartment or a newly built home. Every flooring, the walls, everything is pristine. And any person that's looking for a place to live that's calling me or stopping in that park and walking through the front door of one of those mobile homes, they walk in and they're not disappointed. So,
got it.
So far, I haven't had anybody that didn't want one of the places that they walked into. Nobody has left and not called me back or said on the spot, I want it. What do I need to do to get it? And I think that really was the crucial thing. There's nothing else available. And that's I think going to be a very well expanding market over the next decade or two, and maybe longer, where the gap between the cost of a stick built or brick place and living in a mobile home community, it's just a wide gap. And anybody that's wise enough not to let their pride have them overspend, and then others who maybe have made bad financial decisions in the past or are just getting started, the idea of being able to buy a very clean place that they can call their own and a safe community for half the price of anything else, it's a smart move for them. And just making it available in a place where there's not a lot of other opportunities, it's turned out to be, it seems like a good move.
Good deal. And that's, we talk about it all the time, that this business is beyond the numbers, right? So you could look at the data, you could look at the numbers, but you can't operate this business from a spreadsheet. You have to get that story behind it and kind of make it make sense. And it sounds like you did that to a T. And you talked a little bit about improvement versus expansion, which in for those that don't know, his community had this additional land that was there, and it would give you the idea that there was definitely, and I'm just going to use expansion,
Sure.
for not for city purposes, right? But you had the ability to expand the lots off of the existing land. Like all you had to do was stretch out the infrastructure. And we're in the process, we've done that. We've added lots before. We're in the process of a couple of projects like that, which and rather than ground up, you already have existing infrastructure. You could expand on it. And if you have a well-run community, it's becomes very accretive. What was the process that you had with that? What were some of the challenges that you ran into in dealing with the city on that?
Yeah, so I think to lay the background on that park specifically, there were 56 lots on paper, and that became the most important factor, is that the city had on file a zoned mobile home park with 56 lots, and even though it had been in existence for 20 plus years and had only grown to 13 existing mobile homes on that park, the fact is that it was not technically, legally an expansion to simply add homes onto lots that already exist, and specifically on file with that city. So what happened to bring up an issue, because the city officials that I spoke with were all very excited about the idea of housing coming. There was no opposition to that I ran into initially. What I found out later is that there were a couple of city council members who just didn't like the idea, I think, of so much happening without their approval. And not that they would even have withheld their approval, but it was just an issue with the idea of, okay, so this is all happening right here within our city limits, and we haven't even had a say on it. These are people that were likely not 20 plus years ago on the city council. So it's, to them, it's all new. And I think there's just some, and this is going to be a common thing, whether it's large or small governments or authority structures of any kind of business. There's going to be some pride involved, and so that's what I came up against, and it just took a whole lot of convincing of like taking the idea of a safe family community, where they would want their own, where I would live, where they would want their own relatives to live, and selling that to people. That's one half of the equation. The other half is addressing the legal issues to be able to say, according to the rules, you guys can't ask for this. I will do my best to give you whatever makes you comfortable, but I'm not required legally or obligated to do these things that you're asking for. And it ended up turning out well, but I think it took both of those things. One was addressing the individuals that had an issue in the first place, and the second was to be able to have a defense for the well-being of the business itself, and thankfully those things worked out.
And one thing, Justin, that you hit on right there is, it sounds like you bought a community that was sitting there for a long time, and it was there for a long time, meaning in existence, and probably not a lot of activity happened in that community prior to you coming along. And we've had that happen as well, where we took over a community that was 60 years old, and there was this has happened several times to us, where there was zero activity in these communities, and you're a new operator, you're excited, you come into the community. Typically the city officials in the city are excited that they have a person like you or like us to come in there and breathe some life back in there. And what ends up happening is yes, something could be on file, but it's so old and there's no activity happening, or there hasn't been any new homes come in there, and maybe some codes have changed. And a lot of times, and I don't want to say anything bad about any city officials, but they just don't know what to do, because they haven't had anything happen in the last so many years. So now they're digging into old rules, new codes, and they're just trying to figure it out. But I think I think ultimately what ends up happening, and this actually happened to us. Quick story. This is we bought a community, and it was in the middle of town, and it was just an eyesore, and all around it was growing and was very nice, and everybody knew this community to just be an eyesore, nothing but trouble here. And our intentions were to bring in used homes and redo all of them. And we actually purchased 16 used homes, and we wanted to bring them in. And there was a new code that came out, like, I think it was like actually right after we bought it, and the code stated certain things that would not allow us to bring these homes into the community. And something about the width of the homes, the slopes of the roof, something that I haven't seen before. And it was an issue for us that we had to overcome with the city. And they made an exception for us. And at the end of the day, they made that exception for us because we explained to them who we were. They got to know us personally. They seen what we did in other communities, what our intentions were, and we already started changing things for the better in that community. And I think that's one of the luxuries of being in this space. I don't want to say rules are meant to be broken, but they'll make exceptions for you if they know you're going to come in and change things for the better for the community and for the town.
Yeah, absolutely. I've experienced the same thing as you're describing. And actually, I was contacted, and this is prior to personally being a mobile home park owner, by another group of owners that was having a problem in a town where the code had been adjusted, and it was a 1-to-3 ratio limit on the circumference of the house, so the dimensions of the circumference, and it was specifically meant to allow for tiny homes, allow for double wides, but not allow for single wides. And just from a financial perspective, this company wanted to bring in single wides. And so there was a year-long process of acquiring for them a variance, and it was very difficult. And I think the primary driver of success in that was just what you said. It was convincing them that the vision that the people that are bringing this development in have is good for the community. I think, and I've seen this in other places. There's an idea, and this is one of the reasons that the mobile home park business is such a great business to get into now. But there are places all over the country that the idea of a mobile home park, it is an eyesore in and of itself. We don't want any more. The development of it is nearly dead at this point because of the adoption of codes in counties and cities. And it makes it so that what exists now is almost all that there will be. And some of those are because of property values, they're being bought and demolished or diminished. So because of the attitude towards mobile home parks that exists, that's out there, that's negative, it makes it, for somebody like you guys or myself that are willing to do a little digging and push a little harder to get something done, the opportunities are massive and they are plentiful. Even now that people like myself have kind of come along and seen other people doing it and go, yeah, I'd like to do that as well. The opportunities are there because of some wrongly held ideas about what mobile home park communities are. And for people like yourselves, for people that you guys know or connected with, or for myself that are willing to say, you know what, I'll take up the mantle for this particular place. And I'll pitch the vision for it. I'll push when I have opposition, and I'll get it done. And the end result is just what I've seen you guys do. You guys did it with the park that you bought from my dad. That the improvements were awesome. And what I'm doing here in this place, in this country, there are so many families that just want their own little piece of yard to sit on, not be connected like in an apartment complex. They don't want a handout from the government in housing. They just want their own walls to be inside of with their family that they can call their own. And it's easy enough to screen and end up with good owners, with good homeowners in a park, because there are so many people that's just kind of what their dream is. They want their own place, and they may not be in a position to take on a $2,000 a month mortgage and still be able to feed and clothe their family. So there's a place in our culture, in our community, in our society, I should say, that is growing a need, and the mobile home park community is a way to meet that need on a pretty large scale, in a way that other multifamily structures cannot do.
Absolutely.
And so I appreciate, again, you guys being able to have the success you've had, because you're determined, you're good, and you're determined. And so you've been successful, and I got to watch you do it. And I was so impressed by it. And then got to look around and see that it's something that there's other people doing it too. And I thought, man, I would love to just be able to be a part of this. And so opportunity came up, and I jumped on it. But I appreciate you guys and now you're making it available to so many other people. The information that you're sharing, I've said it before already, but I really appreciate it, and I hope that the listeners do too.
Thank you.
So Justin, thank you so much. This was a great conversation, and we're definitely going to ask you to be on again, because you've provided us and others some great information. Before we let you go, we always like to tell a story, and we have a great story to share with you guys that we had with Justin.
Great story.
And again, we've become very good friends with him and his family, and his dad has mentored us a lot along the way, and still to this day, and just been so welcoming. One of the great people we've met along this journey that we're on, and it was coming right out of COVID. We were
right in the middle, like right when it started. Not even the middle.
We were bottled up for months. Like, we haven't left, and Frank and I are regularly traveling to these communities. How many months was it before? New York had closed down. It was supposed to be 2 weeks, and then it became 4 weeks, and then it was 6 weeks, and then by the 8th week, we were just like, we have to go down, because our job is to go down and check out our properties. And mind you, airlines were just, you had to wear masks and this, which we didn't want to do. We didn't know what was open. We didn't know if hotels were open. So we just said, we have to go down. We can't just allow these assets to sit without us. We have work getting done without putting eyes on. So we decided we were going to go down, and not knowing if we had a place to stay or not, we decided we were going to drive down in an RV. We rented an RV. My first travel in an RV. It was me, Frank, and my dad, and about a 15-hour drive to this location. A little bit more. A little bit more, because the RV went slow, and his dad was great enough. He was actually out of town, but he was just like, "Hey, park it in my yard." We set up shop in his dad's yard. Use our pool. Do whatever you need to do. Just a great time. It was a great memory. My father had come with us to have another driver, and he's never been down. This was his first trip with us, and a little bit boring until Justin showed up. Well, this happens to be, when we talk about the people you meet and the opportunities you get in the spaces. So Justin comes over the first night. Hey, we're gonna have a barbecue in the yard. We're gonna hang out, and Justin's like, "Hey guys, apparently his father has a shooting range in the backyard set up." So he's like, "Hey guys, you mind if we come down? Maybe we'll do a little shooting in the backyard, right?" So at nighttime. Which I've never done. Yes, correct. But he showed up, him and his brother, and they had a trunk of more guns than I've seen in somebody's trunk. Let's just say that. But we had some fun, and it was just a good time and a good memory that I have. And Justin told me something that I remember to this day about the difference between the city and the country. What was that? He said, "Yeah, even." Oh, go ahead, Frank. Finish. I'd like to hear what I said. He said in the city, right?
you ignore the ambulance, right? And you pay attention to the gunshots. In the country, you ignore the gunshots and you pay attention to the ambulance.
That's right. That's when you know there's trouble. The time that you're describing there, right when COVID kicked off in the United States and it totally shifted our cultures, or really highlighted some differences in our culture that already existed. I had just come back from an active war zone and actually was screened in the airport coming back into the country because the timing of it was just right when it was kicking off. And so then I come home and I hear you guys, by the way, Eric, love your dad. He was an awesome guy. So that's real old school New York right there.
Last of the Mohicans.
Yes, that's right. You can tell he's an old timer, awesome dude. The difference in culture though, in whether it's a big city or the country, or especially if you're going from a state like the city areas of New York, the 5 boroughs, and you come down to the country in South Georgia. Yeah, everybody's got guns and everybody's got their own little gun range set up in the backyard. So I thought, we're going to be shooting anyway. So, these guys are down from New York. Maybe they'd like to too. And we enjoyed ourselves a lot. But that invitation to come park in the yard or come stay at our homes, it's an open one.
I have the most important question of this entire program. Right?
All right.
And just remember, I have the video evidence. Justin, who is the better shot, Eric or me?
Oh, man. I feel like that's one of those things where you guys are going to have to come down for another shoot-off to decide. Okay? I don't want to make the proclamation here. You guys can fight about it and then come down here and prove it.
I have the video proof, but that's okay.
Good. I think we all know the answer to that question, but I don't want to be the one to say it. We'll let Eric come down here and redeem himself.
Oh man! All right. Thanks, Justin. No problem. But listen, we definitely will take you up on that.
Absolutely.
100%.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, you guys.
This has been I think a very powerful episode. I think just the whole story of your journey, of what the space is, of your personal journey, of what you've done and what you've been able to accomplish, and just the fact of how this all goes full circle. How in this community, when I talk about community, I talk about the manufactured housing community, the community of community owners, how things work, where people just have a way of paying things forward, and people working together to better communities as a whole, nationwide. I think that's so powerful. This probably the best program we've done so far. So I want to thank Justin for being part of it. Eric, thank you as always for being my partner. And I see you drank your kombucha, so now we're.
And Justin, just tell your dad, my regards. Hope all is well, and we will talk to you soon, Justin.
And if you guys are looking for more information, check us out at the MHPExchange.com. That is the MHPExchange.com. Send us, if you have questions, if you're a community owner that you have questions about your community, send it in. That's how we come up with some ideas for these programs, some questions from community owners. We want to hear from you at the MHP.com website. Talk with you soon.